Hello everyone, my name is Pooja, and this is my story. From recent events, I've learned that in order to amount to anything in this world, you have got to grab life by the throat and start asking the tough questions, and feel the fear and do it anyway because no one else will do it for you. So here goes. This is me feeling the fear and doing it anyway. When I was 18, I left an abusive familial situation. I left with $200 to my name, and my housing situation was a rotation of crashing on strangers' couches and living out of my car. I sold or donated almost all my clothes, books, and other personal items. I became a minimalist, not because it was trendy, but because I had no choice. But I never told anyone. I was homeless, but I was smart about it. I worked several odd jobs to support myself until I found a real job, but $9 an hour wasn't going to make rent, even with a roommate. I later reconnected with my mother and we moved in together, but she struggles with a series of mental and physical illnesses that prevent her from being able to keep a steady job. So to support the both of us, I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs at a time. I was a barista by day, barback by night, and DoorDasher in between both jobs. I was catapulted into adulthood, and I spent the entire time lonely, scared, and ashamed. And shame is time-consuming. So a year passed, a coworker sent me a link to the Europe website. He insisted that I apply. He had a friend in New York who had gone through the program and is now successful and fully employed. I opened the link, skimmed through the website, and said, thanks, but no thanks. I wasn't interested in having anyone profit off my pain. My experiences are important and valid, and they've shaped me into the individual I am today, but they were mine and mine only. I didn't want anyone telling me about me. But no matter how far I ran away from myself and my past, I kept running right back into myself. Before the program, I spent a lot of time by myself because I was in a position I felt the people around me couldn't relate to. I mean, imagine you're 18 trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and you're watching the same people you grew up with have the ability to live, to expand, to make mistakes, but in the end, have a home they can come to, have familial support. That was not my reality. I had dreams. I just didn't have the luxury of time or money to pursue them. I spent a lot of time thinking and thinking and thinking until I arrived to the thought of, this can't be it for me. I don't consider myself to be religious, but I do believe everything happens for a reason. And there's no way I overcame the hardships that I did for me to not come out on the other side of that with my head and my heart still intact and not live to tell that story, to tell my story. So I swallowed my pride and ignored my ego, which I now realize was just fear of rejection and the unknown, and I filled out an interest form. I went to an informational session led by Phil, a man who reminded me of the genie from Aladdin. And he had this smile that made everyone else around him smile. We interviewed the next day, and despite me stumbling on my words and not knowing who I was or what I had wanted at that time, Phil was warm and non-judgmental. And he doesn't know it, but it was Phil's kindness that made me want to show up to pre-orientation week when I didn't want to, because even at that stage I didn't believe in or even trust an organization like Europe. I had been let down by so many programs like it in the past. Part of me felt as though I was truly wasting my time, again. However, like many others in my class, we felt we had nothing to lose. So we showed up anyway, and we kept showing up. And admittedly, L&D was a rough time for me. I worked less hours and even stopped working altogether, and lived off of my financial aid so I could breathe, but if I wasn't physically exhausting myself, I was doing it mentally. My anxiety started to creep in, and I questioned if I was doing the right thing being in this program. I remember thinking, I don't belong here. I'm not the right kind of person for this program. But despite my internal struggles, I pushed through. I tried to take initiative whenever the chance came, getting uncomfortable with the uncomfortable, as Europe likes to call it, and help others where I could because I knew firsthand that juggling school, work, and life was no easy task. All of my efforts in L&D were reflected through my internship I earned, which was a portfolio assistant at Bank of America for their commercial real estate loan operations. I felt a mixture of emotions at first, but ultimately I was proud and knew that if I did well, I'd have a number of career options post-Europe. However, I found myself struggling during my internship much more than I did in L&D. I would go to my internship, go to my job almost immediately after, and get home at 1, sometimes 2 in the morning, then do it all over again in the next few hours. I'd be so exhausted I'd sleep right through the several alarms I'd set for myself and be late. I needed the world to stop spinning for 2 seconds so I could figure myself out and my place in it. But every time I asked the world to stop spinning, it seemed to spin faster. But before I started internship, Monica Packnett, Europe alum and portfolio management assistant at Bank of America, said to me, "Don't be afraid of who you can become and what this program can do for you." So just like in L&D, I made sacrifices and made it work. And I owe a huge part of that to the kindness of the likes of people such as my supervisor, Susan Mogish from Bank of America, for always being my biggest and best advocate, and the likes of people like my good friends Daniela, Catherine, and Cedric, calling me in the morning to ensure I wake up, Brandon Green for sending me very strange but oddly motivationally comforting quotes, or Nikia Hackett for letting me spend multiple nights to study. These have stuck with me and will continue to stick with me, even after we graduate today. And it's instances of these, of lifting while we climb, that have made me realize that we owe it to each other to show up for each other. So to everyone graduating with me today, I wish you all peace and the courage and the empowerment to go out and achieve whatever it is you want. And I hope that this program puts you one step closer in that right direction, wherever that may be for each of you. Lastly, I want to take a moment to give a chance to thank everyone who played a part in making today possible for me. You all know who you are. And if I haven't individually thanked you yet, know that my expressions of gratitude are on the way. With all of that being said, thank you all for coming and letting me speak my truth. And congratulations, Class 5, we made it!